Hey everyone. So, next we're going to be looking at
Henry has only one king.
the Tomb Kings. So, there are 4 lords to choose from here. Settra the Imperishable, Grand Hierophant Katep, High Queen Khalida, and Arkhan the Black. So, as a race, there's the Mortuary Cult. Collect valuable trading goods and combine them with canopic jars in order to craft magical items and legions of legend, which are like the regiments of renown. Dynasties. Learn from the dynasties of the past to awaken ancient tomb kings, unlocking new armies and heroes to command. Basically, stronger versions of lords. So rather than just recruiting a lord from your settlement, you unlock them via the research tree, and then you get a much, definitely a stronger version of a lord for one of your other armies. Realm of Souls. Tomb Kings use incantations in the forms of replenishment and summoning, bringing the dead back to life should enough souls of their own be lost in battle. It's a very interesting type of way they use their armies, plus the way their currency works as well. Settra, I decided we're going to go with Settra for the cinematic. By the way, as I showed and pointed out, I forgot to mention this, that the cutscene you saw me play with Noctilus, it featured Noctilus sitting in that chair, but if I had picked Arkhan, Arkhan would have been in that chair, and that's basically how it was for the Vampire Coast. The same thing applies here with the Tomb Kings. Based on which lord you choose, that lord is going to show up in the cutscene. So, and there's different dialogue from the narrator. In that one for the Vampire Coast, it was the guy reading the map. We're going to get back to the good old advisor narrating the cutscene. Settra, he has an easy initial challenge right here in this portion here, with extra public order, growth, construction time, and casualty replenishment rate for Tomb Guard and Skeleton Chariots, and more leadership aura size. So he's pretty nice when it comes to positive benefits all around. He's basically supposed to be looked upon as, the king of the Tomb Kings. I will, of course, go over that when we read up on his lore. Katep, he actually starts off way up here near where the Dark Elves are. He's actually more suitable for the mountains. He actually can generate canopic jars per turn. Doesn't really have good diplomatic relations with the Dark Elves, more campaign movement range and casualty replenishment, and is able to have more Lich Priests. Khalida, though, I actually like. She's over here in Lustria. She likes the jungle. She has good diplomatic relations with the Tomb King. She also has pretty good ammunition. And she has poison attacks. Her army, just her army in general, has poison attacks. She also has minus 50% casualties from all attrition, and is able to have just +3 untainted by default. I really do like Khalida. I actually want to do a run. I've done an entire run of the campaign with Settra, but I haven't done one with Khalida yet. I have started one, by the way. She starts off with Necropolis and, the Stalkers. I have started one on Arkhan the Black. Now, he's interesting. I find this very amusing. His nickname is the Lich King. Yes, I'm serious. His nickname is the Lich King. Very amusing, wouldn't you say? Now, I know, some people are going to argue like he was the Lich King before we had the Warcraft Lich King, blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying, if you're going to say the word Lich King, I'm not going to think of Arkhan the Black. I'm going to think of the one in World of Warcraft. I'm just saying. I just find it very amusing. However, it does play into the idea of that not just that they are an undead faction, but he has something very unique about him compared to the other Tomb Kings. He is able to recruit certain vampire count units. He actually starts off with crypt ghouls, and he can be able to actually get fell bats and other vampire count units. He also has very bad relations with the rest of the Tomb Kings because he's not very well liked by the rest of them, but he has good relations with the vampire counts and actually has vampire corruption, but it doesn't affect his public order. So he's very interesting in that regard. Settra starts here, he starts here, kind of opposite ends. And if you're wondering why, well, it has to do with what's in between them. And you're going to find out about that in the cutscene in just a moment. But yeah, I've done a campaign as Settra. It was interesting, but I actually want to go through the campaign as both Arkhan and Khalida. I'm not really... I don't know what it is about Katep, that there's just something about... I don't know. Maybe it's because he's way up here isolated in the cold amongst the Dark Elves and it just feels a little isolating. I don't know. But, I don't know, it almost feels like because of the emphasis on the heroes, and I'm not really much into using the heroes, I prefer to just use the armies. I find it more, I'm more compelled to want to play as either Khalida or, as I said, I started a campaign with Arkhan the Black, I want to see how that goes. But we're going to see the campaign via Settra the Imperishable. So, enjoy.
The sands of time ravage all. Mortals, monuments, even civilizations cannot stand against it. Their remnants lost beneath the dunes, awaiting discovery. By the brave, or foolish.
What's that? I can hear something. Come here, quiet.
Like time itself, the living are not welcome in Nehekara. For this is the land of the dead, ruled by the Tomb Kings, where only the expired may serve. In life, they were tyrants, now cursed with undeath. They crave power more than any living thing. And none more so than Settra, the Imperishable. Eternity was promised, but the Tomb Kings awoke to unlife, no longer beatific sovereigns. Their kingdoms as decayed as their bodies. The glory of Khemri lost, forgotten. A comet, an omen. The Black Pyramid stirs, but does not wake. A vessel of untold power, awaiting a new master. But it remains sealed. The Lich Priests are tasked with finding access. They venture deep into the catacombs, seeking clues. Discovering an obelisk inscribed with hieroglyphs as old as the desert gods. The answer lies in the 9 books of Nagash, the original tomes of undead lore, authored by the Arch-Necromancer. Due to the turbulence of the Vortex across the ocean, not 9, but only 5 books are needed. Then, the pyramid shall open. Time has seen the books lost, scattered. Other tomb kings will seek them, for all desire the Black Pyramid. Begin the search. Raise your warriors. The legions of Khemri march to war.
So as I mentioned, that cutscene's a little different based on what lord you play. The comet has awoken the Black Pyramid of the Usurper. Now there is not a moment to lose. Find 5 of Nagash's tomes so the liches can claim the power for Settra, the King of Kings. First, though, there is a greenskin infestation in the north to deal with. I'll talk a bit more in regards to why it's actually a little interesting to play as Arkhan the Black, as opposed to Settra. But yeah, that little portion right there at the end with their army. How can that not get you psyched?
I, Settra the Imperishable, King of Kings, Lord of the Shifting Sands, eternal ruler of mankind, rest no longer. Nehekara will be restored to greatness. Savage greenskins threaten to raid my lands in the east. They have defiled my temples before. I shall ensure their extinction. More godless orcs dwell in the mountains to the south. But a much greater threat squats within my kingdom. The Necrach Brotherhood leech upon my realm. A parasite that must be purged. But they are all mere distractions. I hunger for more. The power of the Black Pyramid. It stands guarded by a sentinel army, and behind magical bonds that can only be unraveled by owning books of Nagash. The books shall be mine, and so will the pyramid. For I am Settra the Imperishable. I do not serve, I rule.
So, I've decided I'm actually going to show you both. Yes, I'm serious. Because I feel like it's very relevant. To help kind of with the story of what's going on here. But yes, this is our main objection. Is to acquire these 5 of these books of Nagash. And you can see they are located in certain places. There's actually one right over here. So yes, we collect 5 of the books. We hold this right here, the Black Pyramid of Nagash, and then we win the Battle of the Black Pyramid.
Settra does not
So,
serve.
in the land of Nehekara, Khemri was the greatest city ruled over by a dynasty of cruel kings and tyrants. While Nagash's stolen rule of Khemri is indeed noteworthy, none, apart from the arch-necromancer himself, can question that its utmost reign came under High King Settra. Before the wind of death ravaged Nehekara, it was an impressive civilization, a burgeoning realm of rival fiefdoms that saw mankind expand long before Sigmar was even born. But the curse of man, compared to dwarves and elves, is their fleeting existence. Soon the kings and princes of the city-states became obsessed with death, with extending their meager span. The mortuary cult was formed during Settra's reign, and charged with ensuring that mortal bonds would not halt his rule. Settra passed with a curse upon his lips, buried in a grand chamber beneath his mighty pyramid, to await the day of awakening, when the mortuary cult will fulfill their promise, and Settra will rise to rule Khemri and dominate all the kingdoms along the great river Vita once again. Only modest progress in extending life was made until the rise of Nagash, for it was he who was destined to become the first and greatest of all necromancers, he who truly brought unlife to the world. The tale of Nagash is terrible to behold. Needless to say, he was banished from Khemri and thought destroyed, but many years later rose again and enacted his revenge on all Nehekara. He cast a great ritual, and all the dead in the city-states rose from their ageless slumbers. But this was not the glorious day of awakening promised by the mortuary cult. The kings awoke entombed in their sarcophagi, breaking free of their brutal chambers, though they saw through empty eye sockets. They had not awoken as gods, but were still the rotting mummies that had withered inside their tombs for countless centuries. Some went insane, others remained in denial, but a few were filled with rage at this betrayal. None more so than Settra. Now Settra the Imperishable rules Khemri once more. His undead legions march at his whim. The King of Kings will not rest until all are under his dominance, be they other petty tomb kings or the living, whom he despises, for they have something that he can never again possess. So yeah, this is Khemri here, and it's right next to the Black Pyramid. So yeah, I hope that gives you an idea. Also, I haven't really showed this in any of the other factions, but yeah, this is partly how you do the research tree here. You research this dynasty, and then you can get access to things like this. Right up here is a Tomb King Lord, which is supposed to have a lot of really nice buffs, and each one is different, with different benefits and bonuses. So you basically get to choose which one you want to focus on. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, as well as how they handle the armies, because you'll see here there's really not an actual like I can click these, you'll notice nothing's changing up here, and there's hardly any currency. Your armies don't really have any expenses or upkeep. Not really. It's a very interesting change in dynamic, what I thought made the armies of the Tomb Kings very interesting to play as. But yeah, so I know I haven't done this. I possibly could have done this with the Vampire Coast. In fact, I may even do that. I don't know. But I think the way I handled it was actually pretty decent. So now I want to switch on over and show you guys. Let's go ahead and just go back to the menu. And now, what do you say we watch that intro again? But this time involving Arkhan. Because, see, the thing is, you mentioned, you saw the stuff there about Nagash and how this pyramid is, with Nagash. Well, Arkhan,
The Liber Mortis reveals all.
his faction is known as the Followers of Nagash. He is a very loyal follower of Nagash. And that comes across in the intro.
The sands of time ravage all. Mortals, monuments, even civilizations cannot stand against it. Their remnants lost beneath the dunes, awaiting discovery by the brave or foolish.
What's that? Shh. I can hear something. Shh. Come here, quiet.
Like time itself, the living are not welcome in Nehekara. For this is the land of the dead, ruled by the Tomb Kings, where only the expired may serve. In his black tower, the Lich King broods. A stalemate between him and Settra has existed for centuries, while Arkhan awaits his real master's call. Eternity was promised, but the Tomb Kings awoke to unlife, no longer beatific sovereigns. their kingdoms as decayed as their bodies. The glory of Khemri lost, forgotten. A comet, an omen. The Black Pyramid stirs, but does not wake. A vessel of untold power, awaiting a new master. But it remains sealed. The Lich Priests are tasked with finding access. They venture deep into the catacombs, seeking clues. Discovering an obelisk inscribed with hieroglyphs as old as the desert gods. The answer lies in the 9 books of Nagash, the original tomes of undead lore, authored by the Arch-Necromancer. Due to the turbulence of the Vortex, not 9, but only 5 books and his master's staff are needed. Then, the pyramid shall open. Time has seen the books lost, scattered. Other Tomb Kings will seek them, for all desire the Black Pyramid. Begin the search. Raise your warriors. The legions of Khemri march to war.
After centuries of fruitless searching, there is at last a sign from the Lich King's true master. The Black Pyramid stirs. It needs but 4 of Nagash's tomes and the power of his staff to fully awaken. But Arkhan will not be left alone. Mortal nuisances, such as errantry Bretonnians from the north, as well as the Tomb Kings themselves, must all be dealt with before the resurrection can truly begin. So now listen to what Arkhan has to say here at the beginning compared to Settra, since Arkhan is a very loyal follower of Nagash.
Master, hear me. The world is in turmoil, unstable with its power, ours to take. Yet others look to prevent me from returning you to this world. The Knights of the Flame voyaged from the north to claim these lands, but they hold too much faith in their lady to protect them. Their errantry war ends here. I shall lay them to rest in the desert. More treasure-hungry living inhabit these realms. They shall not stand in my way as I march to you, my master. Any artifacts stolen by these mortals will be returned to their rightful home within the Black Pyramid. My path is clear, master. None shall stop me finding your books. I already have one in my possession, and the others are bound in your essence, and so call out to me. I claim your pyramid, master. It is yours, and always has been. Let Settra and the lesser kings try and take it. All will perish.
So, yeah. Arkhan already has one of the books. By the way, another one is literally right here. It's right next to him. Also, you notice he had a building right next to the Black Pyramid over there called the Black Tower of Arkhan. You kind of feel like you should move over there and take it. But first he's got to deal with these Bretonians over here. And these dwarves who have one of the books. So yeah. Also, there's an extra battle he has to win because you notice there was no mention of the staff in the Settra one. Here, there is a mention of it. In fact, the idea is that it's this staff right here. At least I think that's what it is. That he, of course, is going to be using that staff in order to help get in there. So. Anyways. What do you guys say we read up a bit on the lore of Arkhan? In the land of the dead, no name is more hated than Nagash, the Arch Necromancer, architect of Nehekara's downfall. It was he that cast a great ritual and brought all of the dead back to unlife ahead of the promised day of awakening. Centuries before this epical moment, he had ruled Khemri, stealing the kingship from his younger brother. Arkhan was the most loyal of Nagash's followers, pivotal in the coup that brought the nascent necromancer to power. After his lord, Arkhan was the first to imbibe the elixir of life, thereby transitioning from mere mortal to unliving immortal. For decades, Arkhan remained staunchly loyal to Nagash, a great warrior and general. He was also an accomplished student of dark sorcery, thanks to his master's teachings. After 50 years of rule, the other cities of Nehekara revolted against Nagash, desperate to end his malicious reign. The army of the 7 kings besieged Khemri, and Nagash was forced to retreat. Arkhan held back the allied priest kings' legions through feats both martial and arcane. He finally fell, not to some hero's blade, but an ordinary spear thrown by a nameless soldier. By his dying breath, he cursed both the spear and any that desecrated his corpse. Nagash has returned to enact vengeance on Nehekara several times over the centuries. One of the Arch-Necromancer's first acts was to resurrect his faithful lieutenant. And so, Arkhan the Black, the Lich King, rose from the dead, as loyal as always, and a key figure in Nagash's many machinations. In an age of comets and new empires, Nagash remains adrift from the world, for the moment. But he is very much active. Arkhan's Black Tower, a beacon for those who worship the Arch Necromancer as a god-in-waiting. Naturally, his greatest rival, everyone's greatest rival no less, is Settra the Imperishable. The two have fought dozens of times. Although Arkhan's forces cannot rival Settra's legions, neither can the Imperishable overcome the Lich King's dark sorcery. Thus their wars end in stalemate, and only when Arkhan utters false promises of fealty does Settra return satisfied to Khemri. Such false servitude cannot, will not, last, for while there is still a chance to resurrect Nagash, his loyal servant will take it. So yeah, it's a very interesting back and forth, and both sides of this conflict here. It almost feels like Khalida and the other guy just kind of like they're not really, whereas really that involved really, even though they also do want to find the books and help get the pyramid. But it really feels like the main conflict here is Arkhan and Settra. I mean, after all, they are literally on both sides of this Black Pyramid right here in the middle. And as I mentioned, he is able to have not just Tomb King's units, but also some Vampire Count units as well. Being able to have Crypt Ghouls and Fellbats and even Direwolves. In fact, if you look here, if you're wondering how he's able to do that, it's because of this extra building he gets called the Grave Hill, which gives him a unit capacity of certain types of units there, and if you upgrade it, you then get Hex Wraiths, which are cavalry ethereal units. You remember those from the vampire counts? Yup. As far as I know, though, those are the... I haven't really gotten that far into the campaign, but as far as I can tell, that is pretty much it. These 4 units are the only ones that he can really get from the Vampire Count's army. And he's able to have a steed and a chariot, which disappoints me because I would have loved it if he had, like, another, like, really cool mount. Like, something Vampire Count related, like a Terrorgeist. I think that would have been a really cool, appropriate mount. Or heck, let him, have a mount like Manfred and let it be like a zombie dragon or something. Just really show like the mix that this guy has between both the Tomb Kings and the Vampire Counts. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing through the rest of the campaign I've made with Arkhan, and also I'm gonna make a Queen Khalida campaign as well, just because I find her benefits and such kind of interesting. Plus, seeing how she does being over here, amongst all the Lustria. I kind of like the Lustria portion of the map more so than way up here, even though it's actually a decent position for Malekith, but still, maybe I will give that other Tomb King lore a try, but I don't know. I'm just not really sure what it is, but... yeah, if you wanted, you could go straight here and then just get the second book right away. So, and just like with the rituals, every time you get one of the books, a cutscene plays showing your progress towards winning the campaign. And you can see here, that big, thing right there shows that's where another of the books are. So, yeah. You could actually somewhat get a pretty quick
Is it hot?
campaign victory as Arkhan if you... have stuff. Also, you can do the domination victory if you want, but campaign victory, that's mainly it. I'm not sure what triggers getting the battle for the Staff of Nagash. It could possibly have to do with a certain level, though really all I see here is when you get the quest to get this weapon here, the Tomb Blade of Arkhan, which does magical attacks, and also summons a unit of skeleton warriors, which is pretty nice. Really playing up that necromantic aspect of his character. I mean, just look at some of these other different stuff that he gets here. Pretty nice. So, anyways. So, yeah, that's the Tomb King's intro. So, that's essentially it, except that, as far as I can tell, there is one more cutscene cinematic intro for this campaign. And that is the most recent one via the Grom the Paunch DLC, which I will show next as basically the final... cinematic cutscene for this. So, stick around for that. Stay tuned.